Captain Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of the Wanderer and watched the stars. Behind him, his crew worked in silence. Everyone knew what today meant. After 200 years of friendship with the Galactic Council, humanity was leaving. Not with war, not with anger, just leaving. "Final checks complete, Captain," said Dr. Amy Chen from her station. She was the ship's science officer and had worked with alien species for 15 years. Now she was helping to pack up and go home. Her voice was calm, but Ben could hear the sadness in it. Ben nodded. "Thank you, Amy. Status on the other ships?" "All human vessels are ready to depart. Admiral Grant reports the fleet is standing by for your signal." Amy paused. "Ben, do you think they'll change their minds?" Ben looked at the massive space station outside the window. The council headquarters gleamed in the light of a nearby star. Inside that station, representatives from dozens of alien species had just voted. The result was clear. Humans were not welcome anymore. "No," Ben said quietly. "They've made their choice." Hours earlier, Ambassador Daniel Cross had stood before the council chamber. He was young for an ambassador, only 35, but he was smart and believed in peace. He had prepared his speech for weeks. "Honored members of the council," Daniel began, "I ask you to reconsider this vote. Humanity has been a loyal member of this council for 2 centuries. We have shared our technology. We have helped build stations and colonies. We have fought beside you against common threats. Why are you doing this now?" Councillor Vectar of the Zenthari Empire stood up. He was tall, with gray skin and sharp features. His species had been in space for thousands of years. They thought humans were children playing at civilization. "Ambassador Cross," Vectar said with a cold smile, "your species has been tolerated because we believed you would learn your place. Instead, you spread too fast. You build colonies without permission. You make changes to systems we have perfected over millennia. You are too emotional, too unpredictable. The council has voted. The sanctions will stand." Daniel felt his heart sink. The sanctions were impossible to live with. They would force humans to abandon their colonies, their trade routes, their homes. It was exile in everything but name. "Then you leave us no choice," Daniel said. "Humanity will withdraw from council space. But remember this day, Counselor. You will regret it." The chamber filled with laughter. The alien representatives found it amusing that humans would threaten them. The Drell Collective, the Maxis Federation, the Corvin Systems, they all laughed. Humans were nothing special. They were average at everything. Average strength, average intelligence, average technology. The galaxy would barely notice they were gone. Daniel walked out of the chamber with his head high. Inside, he felt hollow. Now, aboard the Wanderer, Ben received the final signal from Admiral Lisa Grant. She commanded the human fleet over 300 ships of all sizes, colony transports, cargo vessels, science ships, mining platforms. Everything humanity had built in council space was coming home. "Captain Hayes," Lisa's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired. "All ships report ready. The colonies have been evacuated. We're bringing everyone home." "Understood, Admiral. What about the people who don't want to leave?" Lisa's expression hardened. "There are a few. Scientists who married aliens. Traders who have businesses here. We gave them the choice. Some are staying. But Ben, they need to understand. The council won't protect them anymore." Ben understood. Those humans would be on their own. It was a hard choice, but it was theirs to make. "Begin the withdrawal," Ben ordered. "All ships, execute Protocol Exodus." Across council space, human ships started their engines. They left orbit around alien worlds. They disconnected from space stations. They powered down facilities and locked up research labs. And then they flew away toward human space, beyond the borders of the council. What the council didn't see was what the humans took with them. In the cargo holds of those ships were computers containing maintenance logs, engineering manuals, medical databases, software patches, calibration procedures, all the small things that humans had created and fixed and improved over 200 years. Karen Mitchell, a human engineer, stood in her empty office on Station Prime. She had worked here for 20 years, keeping the life support systems running. She looked at her desk one last time, then uploaded her final log entry. "This is Chief Engineer Mitchell. Final entry. All maintenance schedules are in the system. All repair procedures are documented, but I don't think anyone will read them. The other species think this equipment just works by itself. They don't know that I've been fixing problems every single day. They'll learn. Log end." She picked up her bag and walked out. The door locked behind her. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Jake Palmer left his position maintaining the asteroid mining computers. Lisa Wong shut down the medical calibration lab she had run for a decade. David Kim closed his agricultural research center. Every human in every role packed up and left. The council watched the human ships depart. Counselor Vectar stood at a window and smiled. "Good riddance," he said. "Now we can get back to proper civilization." His aide, a younger Zenthari named Kel, looked uncertain. "Counselor, I've been reviewing the reports. Humans held a lot of maintenance positions. Should we be concerned?" Vectar waved his hand dismissively. "Maintenance? Any species can do maintenance. The humans were useful for simple tasks. Nothing more. We gave them those jobs because we felt sorry for them. Now we'll simply assign them to others." But as the last human ship jumped to hyperspace and disappeared, something changed in council space. It was subtle at first. A small error in a medical machine. A minor fluctuation in a power grid. A warning light that no one had seen before. The humans had departed quietly, and in their silence, they had taken something the council didn't yet understand it needed. Time would tell the cost of that lesson. Time and the slow collapse of everything humans had been holding together. Captain Ben Hayes took one last look at council space before the Wanderer made its jump. "Goodbye," he whispered. Then he gave the order, and humanity went home. 3 months passed. Council space seemed peaceful and normal. The alien species barely noticed the humans were gone. Life continued as it always had, or so they thought. Dr. Talon Moore was a Drell physician, and he was starting to worry. The Drell were known for their careful nature and attention to detail. Talon had worked at Central Medical on Station Prime for 40 years. He knew every machine, every procedure. But lately, things were going wrong. "Nurse, check the scanner again," Talon said, looking at the display. The medical scanner showed impossible readings. His patient, a young Maxis child with a broken arm, appeared to have 3 hearts according to the machine. Maxis only had 1 heart. "I've reset it twice, doctor," the nurse replied. "It keeps giving bad readings." Talon frowned. He remembered Karen Mitchell, the human engineer who used to maintain these machines. She would come by every week, checking things, making adjustments. He had barely spoken to her, thinking her job was simple and unimportant. Now he wondered if he should have paid more attention. "Use the backup scanner," Talon ordered, "and file a maintenance request." But the maintenance request went nowhere. The station's maintenance department was overwhelmed. Without the human engineers, they were discovering problems everywhere. And they didn't know how to fix them. Across the council chambers, Counselor Vectar was having a very bad day. His assistant, Kel, stood before his desk with a datapad full of reports. All of them were complaints. "The mining operations in Sector 7 are at 40% efficiency," Kel read. "The automated systems keep shutting down. The Corvin mining guilds are demanding answers." Vectar rubbed his temples. "Fine. What else?" "The universal translators are malfunctioning. Yesterday, Ambassador Prill accidentally declared war on the Maxis Federation because his translator changed greetings to "We will destroy you." It took 6 hours to sort out. That's unfortunate, but fixable, surely. Kell looked uncomfortable. Counselor, there's more. Life support fluctuations on 14 stations, communication delays on major trade routes, navigation errors causing shipping delays, and the medical facilities, they're reporting equipment failures across 30 worlds. Vectar stood up angrily. How is this possible? These systems have worked perfectly for decades. Yes, Counselor. They worked perfectly because humans were maintaining them. The words hung in the air. Vectar wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Slowly, the truth was becoming clear. Humans hadn't just been members of the Council. They had been the invisible workforce keeping everything running. Kell continued carefully. I've been investigating. Humans wrote most of the maintenance software we use. They designed the safety protocols for mining operations. They calibrated medical equipment. They updated the translator databases. They fixed thousands of small problems that we never even knew existed. Why didn't anyone notice? Vectar demanded. Because they did it quietly, Counselor. They didn't ask for recognition. They just did the work, and we assumed it was simple work that anyone could do. Vectar sat down heavily. Can we train our own people to do these tasks? Kell shook his head. We're trying, but the humans left behind documentation that we're having trouble understanding. Their approach to engineering is different from ours. They build systems that are easy to maintain and fix. We build systems that are perfect but break easily, and when something breaks, we don't know how to fix it without replacing everything. On the other side of Council space, a crisis was brewing. The asteroid mining station, Gamma 7, supplied raw materials to dozens of worlds. It was completely automated, with just a small staff to oversee operations. But the automation was failing. Station manager Prill, a Corvan with 20 years of experience, stared at his screens in confusion. The mining drones were behaving strangely. Some were colliding with each other. Others were mining in the wrong locations. Several had simply shut down. Someone get me Jake Palmer, Prill said. Then he remembered. Palmer was human. Palmer was gone. Palmer had been the one who kept these systems running. Everyone had thought Palmer just watched the computers work. Nobody realized Palmer was constantly fixing problems, updating code, preventing disasters. Prill looked at his team. Does anyone know how Palmer kept these drones working? Everyone shook their heads. They had never asked. Palmer had just been the human maintenance guy, not important enough to learn from. Find his logs, Prill ordered. There must be documentation. They found Palmer's logs. Thousands of entries, all detailed and careful. But they were in human technical language, full of terms and procedures that didn't translate well. Palmer had written everything down, but he had written it for other humans to understand. Prill spent 3 days trying to decode the logs. Mining efficiency dropped to 20%. The station's clients started complaining. Some threatened to cancel contracts. Finally, Prill did something he never thought he would do. He sent a message to human space, to Jake Palmer specifically. The message was simple. We need help, please. Palmer's response came 2 days later. I warned you this would happen. I told my supervisors that the systems needed constant attention. Nobody listened. You wanted us gone. Now you have your wish. Prill felt anger rise in him, but then he read the rest of the message. However, I'm not heartless. I've attached a basic troubleshooting guide. It won't fix everything, but it should help. For complex repairs, you'll need to hire human contractors. We're expensive now. Market forces. The guide helped, but barely. It was like putting a bandage on a broken bone. The station limped along at reduced capacity. Similar scenes happened everywhere. Dr. Talon Moore managed to fix his medical scanner using instructions from a human doctor named Frank Morrison. But Morrison's message included a warning. This is a temporary fix. The scanner needs proper calibration every month. Without it, it will fail completely within a year. The universal translator problem got worse. The software that made different species understand each other was degrading. Humans had maintained a massive database of linguistic updates, cultural context, and idiom translations. Without updates, the system was using outdated information. Words changed meaning. Phrases were translated literally instead of contextually. Diplomatic incidents multiplied. Councillor Nira Val of the Pelton Commonwealth called for an emergency session. She was one of the few who had voted against the human sanctions. Now she stood before the council with grim satisfaction. "I warned you," she said. "I told you we were making a mistake. Humans were not just members. They were partners. They filled the roles we considered beneath us. And now we're paying the price." Vectar tried to maintain his authority. "These are temporary problems. We will adapt." "Will we?" Nira challenged. "How many species know how to maintain a medical scanner? How many can write safety protocols for mining drones? How many understand the human approach to system maintenance? We don't even know what we don't know." The council chamber was silent. The truth was sinking in, slowly and painfully. Humans had been important, very important, and they were gone. Back in human space, Captain Ben Hayes received reports of the council's growing problems. His daughter, Mira, was a xenosociologist studying the situation. "Dad, they're starting to understand," Mira said. "But it's going to get worse before they admit they were wrong." Ben nodded. "How much worse?" Mira pulled up her analysis. "Much worse. The medical systems will start failing in 6 months. Trade networks will collapse in a year. We built more than we realized, and they depended on us more than they knew." "Then people will die," Ben said quietly. "Yes, people will die. And the council will have to decide if their pride is worth that cost." 6 months had passed since the humans left. What started as small problems had grown into a disaster. The galactic economy was collapsing, and people were starting to die. Commander Seth Torres sat in his office on New Earth Colony, the largest human settlement outside council space. His communication console blinked with incoming messages. Most were from aliens he used to work with. All of them were desperate. "Commander Torres, this is Station Director Ven of Trading Hub Gamma. Our logistics system has crashed. We have ships stuck in dock, unable to load or unload cargo. We have food rotting in warehouses. Please, we need help." Seth played the next message. "Torres, it's Krill from the Mining Guild. You know me. We worked together for years. Our entire operation is down. The computers won't respond. We found your old partner's notes, but we can't understand them. People are losing their jobs. Families are suffering. Can you help?" Message after message. Pleas for help. Offers of payment. Some were from friends. Some were from people who had laughed when humans left. Seth's assistant, a young human named Paul Gray, knocked on the door. "Sir, another delegation from the council is requesting a meeting. That's the 3rd one this month." "What do they want?" "Same as before. Technical help, but they still won't apologize for forcing us out." Seth leaned back in his chair. "Tell them no. Not until they admit what they did was wrong." Paul nodded and left. Seth felt a knot in his stomach. He wanted to help. That was the human way. But President Ellen Ross had been clear. No help until the council showed real change. It was a hard decision, but maybe a necessary one. In council space, the situation grew worse every day. The hyperspace beacon network, which guided ships through the galaxy, was failing. Humans had designed 80% of the software that kept the beacons synchronized. Without maintenance, the beacons were drifting out of alignment. Ships were getting lost. Some jumped to the wrong coordinates. Others were stranded when beacons failed completely. 3 ships had been destroyed when they jumped into a star system without accurate guidance. 200 lives lost. The trade network was in chaos. Goods weren't reaching their destinations. Planets that depended on imported food were facing shortages. Medicines weren't arriving at hospitals. The economy, which had run smoothly for centuries, was grinding to a halt. On the Zenthari homeworld, Counselor Vectar faced angry crowds. His people were suffering, and they blamed him. The power grid had suffered multiple failures. Water treatment plants were shutting down. The Zenthari, who prided themselves on their advanced civilization, were struggling with basic utilities. Vectar's aide, Kel, brought more bad news. "Counselor, our military has reported a serious problem. The weapon systems are degrading. We've discovered that human engineers had been secretly fixing design flaws in our ships for years. Without them, the systems are failing." "What?" Vectar was shocked. "Why would humans fix our weapons? We could have used them against them." "Because we asked them to, Counselor. We hired human contractors to maintain our fleet. We never asked what they were doing. We just expected everything to work, and they made it work, even when our own designs were flawed." Vectar felt shame for the first time. The humans had helped even when it didn't benefit them. They had fixed problems without demanding credit, and his people had thrown them out like garbage. "How bad is it?" "Bad, Counselor. Yesterday, a patrol ship near the border accidentally fired on a Torvan vessel because the targeting system malfunctioned. The Torvan are threatening war. We're trying to explain it was an accident, but they don't believe us." Vectar closed his eyes. Everything was falling apart. The worst disaster came on Drell Prime. Dr. Talon Moore was working late when the alert came through. A plague had broken out on the farming colony of Drell Minor. It was a virus that had been eliminated decades ago, but somehow it had returned. Hundreds were sick. Without treatment, thousands would die. Talon accessed the medical database, searching for the vaccine formula. He found it quickly. The vaccine had been developed by a human scientist named Laura Stevens. But when he tried to access the manufacturing procedure, the file was corrupted. No, Talon whispered, trying other databases. Every copy of the procedure was corrupted or incomplete. The backups had failed, and Laura Stevens, the only person who knew how to make the vaccine, was long gone. Talon sent an emergency message to human space, to Laura Stevens directly if she would receive it. "Dr. Stevens, this is Dr. Talon Moore. We have a plague outbreak on Drell Minor. We need your vaccine. Children are dying. Please help us." The response came 12 hours later. Laura's message was cold. "Dr. Moore, I remember Drell Prime. Your government voted to sanction humanity. Your representative said we were not advanced enough to contribute meaningful science. Now you need my science. How interesting." Talon felt his hope die, but then he read further. "However, I became a doctor to save lives, not to watch people die. I'm sending the manufacturing procedure. Follow it exactly. And Dr. Moore, remember this moment. Remember that a not advanced enough human saved your people." Talon started crying. Not from sadness, but from shame and relief mixed together. Laura Stevens had every right to refuse. Her own people had been treated terribly. But she helped anyway because it was the right thing to do. The vaccine was manufactured and distributed. The plague was stopped, but 300 people died before the vaccine reached everyone. 300 deaths that would not have happened if humans had still been there. President Ellen Ross called an emergency meeting of the Human Coalition. Leaders from every human colony and settlement joined the video conference. The question was simple but difficult. Should humanity help the Council? "They threw us out," said Governor Tim Walsh of Mars Colony. "They laughed at us. They called us primitive. Why should we save them?" "Because people are dying," said Commander Torres. "Not just the politicians who voted against us. Ordinary people, children, innocents who had nothing to do with the sanctions." Admiral Lisa Grant spoke up. I agree with Torres, but we can't just go back to being taken for granted. If we help, it has to be on our terms. They need to understand our value. The debate went on for hours. Some wanted to let the council suffer. Others wanted to help immediately. Finally, President Ross made a decision. We will offer limited humanitarian aid, she said. We'll help with the most critical problems, life support systems, medical emergencies, food distribution, but nothing else until the council meets our demands. They must issue a formal apology. They must release any humans being held in council space. And they must recognize us as equal partners, not subordinates. The vote passed narrowly. Humanity would help, but not without conditions. Seth Torres received his orders the next day. He was to lead a team to the refugee station everyone was talking about, Station Haven, home to 40,000 civilians from multiple species. Life support was failing, and they had less than a week to live. The station had been managed by human volunteers during the cooperation years. When humans left, new managers took over, but they didn't understand the systems. Small problems became big ones. Now the station was dying, and everyone on it would die too unless someone helped. Seth assembled his team, engineers, technicians, life support specialists, all volunteers, all knowing they were flying into council space where they might not be welcome. Captain Ben Hayes personally volunteered to fly them. The Wanderer, which had carried the last humans out of council space, would now carry the first humans back in. Are you sure about this, Ben? Amy Chen asked him. Ben looked at the star charts. Amy, those 40,000 people didn't vote to sanction us. They're just trying to live their lives. If we can save them, we have to try. That's what being human means. The Wanderer jumped to hyperspace, carrying a team of humans back into a galaxy that had rejected them. Seth Torres looked out at the stars and wondered what they would find. Would the council accept their help? Or would pride stand in the way even as people died? He didn't know, but he knew one thing for certain. The council was learning a hard lesson about the cost of taking people for granted, and that lesson was paid in lives, infrastructure, and the slow collapse of everything they thought they had built themselves. The Wanderer dropped out of hyperspace near Station Haven. What Captain Ben Hayes saw made his heart sink. The station was dark except for a few emergency lights. Debris floated around it. The hull had visible damage. This place was dying. Life support at 18%, Amy Chen reported from her station. Ben, they have maybe 3 days left. 4 if they're lucky. Commander Seth Torres stood behind Ben, looking at the station through the window. 40,000 people. How did it get this bad? Neglect, Amy said. The new managers didn't maintain the systems. Small failures cascaded into big ones. By the time they realized how serious it was, they couldn't fix it themselves. Ben opened a communication channel. Station Haven, this is Captain Hayes of the human vessel Wanderer. We're here to help with your life support crisis. Please respond. Static filled the bridge, then a weak voice came through. Wanderer, this is Station Haven. Thank the stars you're here. We're losing people every day. The air is running out. Seth's team went to work immediately. They docked with the station and entered with their equipment. What they found was worse than expected. The life support systems were ancient, held together with temporary repairs. The human volunteers who used to manage the station had kept it running through skill and dedication. The new managers had no idea what they were doing. This is a mess, said Kate Wilson, the team's lead engineer. Look at this. Someone tried to fix the oxygen generator with duct tape. Actual duct tape. This is complex machinery, not a broken chair. Seth organized his team. Kate, focus on the oxygen systems. Paul, work on the water recyclers. I'll handle the temperature controls. We have 3 days to make this station livable again. They worked without sleeping. Hour after hour, they fixed systems that should never have been allowed to fail. The station residents watched with gratitude and shame. Many of them had supported the human sanctions. Now humans were saving their lives. While Seth's team worked, another crisis was unfolding deeper in council space. Dr. Frank Morrison, a human physician, had been arrested. Frank had stayed behind when other humans left because he was treating patients in a hospital. He couldn't abandon sick people, even if it meant defying the Exodus order. The council authorities accused him of espionage. They said he was stealing medical secrets. In reality, Frank was just doing his job, saving lives. But fear and paranoia had taken over. Anyone human was now seen as a potential threat. Frank sat in a small cell, wondering if he would ever see home again. He had committed no crime except being human and caring too much. News of Frank's imprisonment spread quickly. President Ellen Ross was furious. She sent a message directly to the council. Release Dr. Morrison immediately. He is a doctor, not a spy. If you do not release him within 48 hours, all humanitarian aid stops. Every human team will withdraw. Those 40,000 people on Station Haven, they'll die. And their blood will be on your hands. The ultimatum shocked the council. Councillor Vector called an emergency session. The chamber was tense. Everyone knew the situation was critical. We cannot give in to human demands, said Councillor Drex of the Maxis Federation. It makes us look weak. Councillor Nira Val stood up angrily. Weak! We are already weak. Our infrastructure is collapsing. Our people are dying. And you're worried about looking weak? We are weak. The humans held us together and we threw them away. Nira is right, said a new voice. It was Councillor Kess of the Torvan Unity, a species known for their honesty. I have reviewed the data. Humans maintained 70% of our critical systems. They did jobs we considered beneath us. We treated them like servants, but they were actually holding our civilization together. We were fools. Vector felt the weight of his mistakes crushing him. His homeworld was suffering. His people were angry. The military had almost started a war because of failing weapons systems. And now he had to choose between pride and survival. Release Dr. Morrison, Vector said quietly, and issue a formal apology to humanity. Counselor, are you sure? Drex asked. Yes, because Kess is right. We were fools, and now we're paying the price. While the council debated, disaster struck. A Zenthari patrol ship encountered a Torvan mining vessel near the border. The patrol ship's sensors malfunctioned, showing the mining vessel as a warship. The weapons systems, degraded from lack of maintenance, fired automatically. The mining vessel was destroyed. 70 Torvan workers died. The Torvan Unity declared war immediately. They didn't believe it was an accident. They thought the Zenthari had attacked deliberately. Within hours, fighting broke out along the border. Ships clashed. Stations were bombed. Thousands died in the first day. The Zenthari tried to explain it was a malfunction, but the Torvan wouldn't listen. Trust had broken down along with everything else. Admiral Lisa Grant watched the reports from human space. This is getting out of control. That war wouldn't have happened if human engineers were still maintaining those systems. Should we intervene? Asked her second-in-command. Not our fight, Lisa said, but she didn't sound convinced. Though if they keep going, it'll destabilize the entire region. And destabilization means refugees, suffering, more death. On Station Haven, Seth's team finally got the oxygen systems working properly. The air cleared. People could breathe without struggling. The grateful residents thanked the humans over and over. An elderly Pelton woman approached Seth. Why did you come? We voted to make you leave. We called you unimportant. Why save us? Seth looked at her. Because you're people, and people deserve help when they're in trouble. That's what we believe. The woman started crying. We were so wrong about you. Kate Wilson finished the last repairs and joined Seth. Commander, we've done all we can. The station will run for now, but it needs proper maintenance. Someone has to stay and manage these systems. The council needs to figure that out themselves, Seth said. We've given them time. What they do with it is up to them. The Wanderer prepared to leave Station Haven, but before they could depart, a message came through. It was from the council. Dr. Frank Morrison was being released, and the council was ready to issue a formal apology. Ben Hayes read the message to his crew. The Galactic Council acknowledges that sanctions against humanity were unjust and wrong. We apologize for our treatment of the human species. We ask for a new beginning, based on mutual respect and recognition of humanity's essential contributions to our civilization. The bridge was silent. Then Amy Chen spoke. It's a start, but words are easy. Let's see if they mean it. Ben agreed. The apology was necessary, but not sufficient. The real question was whether the council would actually change. Would they treat humans as equals, or would they fall back into old patterns once the crisis passed? Lieutenant Kate Wilson had another concern. Captain, even if they apologize, can we trust them? They turned on us once. What stops them from doing it again? Nothing, Ben said honestly, except maybe the memory of what happened when they did. They've learned that we're essential, the hard way. I hope that lesson sticks. Seth Torres looked at the station they had just saved. 40,000 lives preserved. But at what cost? How many had died elsewhere while the council's pride stood in the way of accepting help? Mira Chen, Ben's daughter, had been studying the data from her colony. She sent her father a report. Dad, the death toll from the collapse is at least 15,000 so far. Medical failures, shipping accidents, the plague outbreak, and now this war. 15,000 deaths that could have been prevented if humans had been there. Or if the council had asked for help sooner. Ben read the report and felt sick. 15,000. That number would haunt him. Yes, the council had apologized. Yes, they were releasing prisoners. But those 15,000 people were still dead. You couldn't apologize them back to life. The Wanderer turned toward home, carrying Seth's team back to human space. Behind them, Station Haven glowed with light, its life support working again. A small victory in a galaxy that was still falling apart. The war between the Zenthari and Torvin continued. The Council's infrastructure kept failing. Trade networks remained broken. And humanity watched, waiting to see if words would turn into real change. President Ross received the Council's apology and called another meeting. They've apologized. They've released our people. The question now is, what do we do next? Do we return? Do we help rebuild? Or do we stay out here and let them figure it out themselves? The debate was fierce. Some said humanity should return and save lives. Others said the Council needed to fix their own mess. Everyone agreed on one thing. If humans went back, it would be as partners, not as the invisible workforce they had been before. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed. And the relationship between them would never be the same. 1 year had passed since humanity left Council space. The galaxy looked very different now. The war between the Zenthari and Torvin had ended, but only after both sides were too exhausted to continue fighting. Thousands had died. Entire colonies had been damaged, all because of a malfunction that never would have happened if human engineers had been there. Dr. Frank Morrison stood on the landing pad of Earth's capital spaceport. He was home, finally free. Council security had released him 3 months ago, along with every other human they had detained. He looked thinner, older. Prison had been hard, but he was alive, and he was home. A reporter approached him. Dr. Morrison, how do you feel about the Council now? Do you hate them for what they did to you? Frank thought about it. No. I'm angry, yes. But hate? That takes too much energy. I just want them to remember this. Remember what happens when you treat good people badly. President Ellen Ross watched the interview from her office. Frank's words echoed her own feelings. The council had learned their lesson, but at a terrible cost. 15,000 dead, infrastructure destroyed, an entire civilization brought to its knees. And for what? Pride, fear, prejudice? Her communication console blinked. It was Counselor Neera Val requesting a meeting. Neera had replaced Vectar as the head of the council after Vectar resigned in disgrace. The former counselor now lived in quiet retirement, his reputation destroyed by the consequences of his decisions. President Ross. Neera's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired. Thank you for taking my call. I want to discuss the future. The council has prepared a formal proposal. I'm listening, Ellen said. We cannot go back to how things were. That much is clear. We need humanity, but more than that, we need to change how we think about humanity. We've drafted a new treaty. We're calling it the Terran Compact. Ellen received the document and began reading. The Terran Compact was different from the old agreements. It recognized humanity as a fully independent power, not a junior member of the Council. It guaranteed human autonomy. It established trade relationships based on equality, not exploitation. And it included something new, shared governance of critical infrastructure. This is a good start, Ellen said. But I need guarantees. How do I know you won't turn on us again when things get comfortable? Neera nodded. You can't know for certain, but we've changed our laws. The sanctions that drove you out are now illegal. Any future sanctions against any species require a unanimous vote, not just a majority, and we've created an independent oversight committee to prevent abuse of power. Who's on this committee? Representatives from every member species, including humans. It has the power to overturn council decisions if they violate the founding principles of equality and respect. Ellen was impressed. The council had actually learned something. But words on paper didn't mean much without action. What about the practical matters? If we return, how do we ensure our people are treated fairly? Full equality in all positions. Humans will no longer be relegated to maintenance and support roles unless they choose those positions. Your scientists will work alongside ours. Your diplomats will have the same authority. And most importantly, human expertise in engineering and system management will be recognized and compensated properly. Ellen smiled slightly. So we're expensive now? Yes, Neera said without embarrassment. Market forces, as one of your people told us. We took you for granted. We paid you poorly because we didn't value your work. That was wrong. Now we understand your worth. Over the next 3 months, negotiations continued. The human coalition debated whether to accept the Terran Compact. Some colonies wanted to stay independent. Others were eager to return to council space. Finally, a vote was held. The result was close, but clear. Humanity would return, but on their own terms. Captain Ben Hayes was chosen as the first human ambassador under the new treaty. He stood before the council chamber, the same place where Daniel Cross had been laughed at a year ago. But this time, the aliens weren't laughing. They stood as he entered, a sign of respect. Honored members, Ben began, humanity accepts the Terran Compact. We return not as the species we were, but as the species we've become. Stronger, more united, and determined never to be taken for granted again. The council members nodded. Councillor Kess of the Torvan Unity spoke. Ambassador Hayes, we welcome humanity back, and we apologize, not just with words, but with actions. We have changed our laws. We have changed our attitudes. We hope to earn back your trust. Trust is earned slowly, Ben said. But we're willing to try, for the sake of all our peoples. Dr. Amy Chen led the first wave of human specialists back into council space. Engineers, doctors, technicians, scientists. They came not as invisible workers, but as recognized experts. They were paid well. They were respected. and they trained alien colleagues to understand the systems humanity had built. Commander Seth Torres took a position managing the reconstruction of Station Haven. This time, he had a team of both humans and aliens working together. They learned from each other. The aliens learned human approaches to maintenance and problem-solving. The humans learned alien perspectives on design and innovation. Kate Wilson, the engineer who had helped save the station, worked alongside a Zenthari engineer named Vrel. At first, they disagreed on everything. Zenthari engineering was about perfection. Human engineering was about reliability. But slowly, they found common ground. "Your systems are easier to fix," Vrel admitted one day. "Our systems break less often, but when they break completely." "And your systems are more elegant," Kate replied. "We could learn from that. Maybe we can combine our approaches, elegant and reliable." They began collaborating on new designs. Other human-alien teams did the same across the galaxy. New innovations emerged from this cooperation. Better medical equipment, more efficient power systems, smarter navigation computers. The galaxy was rebuilding, and it was building something better than before. But the scars remained. The memorial station floating near Earth listed the names of the 15,000 who died during the collapse. President Ross attended the dedication ceremony. So did Counselor Nira Val. "These people died because of our mistakes," Nira said quietly. "We cannot bring them back, but we can honor them by ensuring it never happens again." Ellen looked at the memorial. So many names, so many lives lost. "My people have a saying, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We won't forget." "Neither will we," Nira promised. Months passed. The galaxy slowly healed. The Zenthari and Torvin signed a peace treaty, mediated by human diplomats. Trade routes reopened. Food reached hungry worlds. Medicine arrived at hospitals. Life support systems ran smoothly. The network of civilization, broken by pride and prejudice, was being rebuilt on a foundation of respect. Dr. Talon Moore, the Drell physician, sent a message to Dr. Laura Stevens, the human who had saved his people from the plague. "Dr. Stevens, I wanted you to know. We've named our new medical research center after you, the Stevens Institute for Interspecies Medicine. It seemed appropriate." Laura's response was warm. "I'm honored, Dr. Moore, and I'm glad your people survived. Perhaps we can collaborate on research there. Together, we might cure diseases neither of us could handle alone. I would like that very much." One evening, Captain Ben Hayes stood on the observation deck of Council Station Prime with Dr. Amy Chen. They watched ships coming and going, human vessels alongside alien ones, working together, trading, talking, building. "Do you think it will last?" Amy asked. "Or will they forget again?" Ben was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. Human nature is to hope for the best. But we've also learned to prepare for the worst. We're not the naive species we were. We know our worth now, and we won't let anyone forget it." "We departed quietly," Amy said, "but we came back on our own terms." "Yes, and that makes all the difference." Below them, in the engineering section, Jake Palmer worked alongside a Corvin named Prill, the same Prill who managed the mining station that had failed when Jake left. They were friends now, bonded by shared work and mutual respect. "Jake, I'm sorry I never asked how you did your job," Prill said. "I just assumed it was simple." "It wasn't personal," Jake replied. "You just didn't know. Now you do." "Now I do," Prill agreed. "And I'm grateful you came back to teach me." Across the galaxy, similar conversations happened. Apologies given and accepted. Lessons learned. Relationships rebuilt. The Council had paid a terrible price for its pride. 15,000 lives. A collapsing civilization. A war that never should have happened. But from that price came something valuable. Understanding. Respect. A new way of seeing each other. Humans were no longer the invisible workforce. They were partners, essential partners, and everyone knew it. President Ellen Ross looked at the reports from Council Space. Human teams were working everywhere, but now they had support. Training programs had been established. The Council species were learning to maintain their own systems with human guidance. Eventually, they wouldn't need humans for everything. But they would always remember what happened when they took humans for granted. The Terran Compact had been signed. The galaxy was healing. And humanity had proven something important. They had proven their worth not through war or threats, but through competence, compassion, and the courage to walk away when necessary. Captain Ben Hayes sent a message back to Earth to be recorded in the historical archives. To future generations, remember this. We left quietly because we refused to beg for recognition. The Council paid the cost because they learned too late what we were worth. But in the end, we returned, not as servants, but as equals. May we never forget the price of being taken for granted, and may we never take others for granted in return. The galaxy turned. Ships flew between stars. Civilizations grew and changed, and humanity took its place among the stars, respected and valued, partners in building a better future for all species. The story of humans who departed quietly had ended, but the story of what came next was just beginning.